Hello again. Welcome to Chapter 9 video lecture. This will be the one that would have been covered in class on Wednesday. At this point, I will have made it almost a week post-surgery. I don't know if I'm getting another lecture video made beforehand because I am making this on Thursday and surgery is tomorrow. I'm trying to work ahead, but it's highly possible when we get to chapter 10 video lecture, it's going to be a little different, but I'm going to try to get chapter 10 done tonight. So we'll get through. So I have an entire week of recovery. This one's a really cool one, and it's kind of funny because it goes really well with some of the stuff we were just talking about in class on Wednesday. So without further ado, let's pop up the PowerPoint. Here we go. All righty. We were talking about healthy weight when I asked about the in-class assignment in class yesterday. Well, when you watch this, it clearly won't be yesterday. But anyway, our last Wednesday, our last in-person class, how's that? Somebody had asked about how to calculate your caloric needs. And that's part of what we're talking about here. I mentioned about putting up the energy budget. So I'm going to be working on that today. So that is going to be there in Moodle, and there will be instructions, and I'm going to try to make a video for that too. So you can do that whenever. For that assignment, I say assignment because you're not getting a grade specifically for it, but you have to use that information in your nutrition diary. There will be a separate video. And so, dude, I got a lot of videos I'm trying to make today. Anyway, here we go. I love these icebreakers. I prefer them in class because I like to hear your answers. Does a normal body weight mean good health? What factors influence our overall health? God knows we've talked about that one. How can we improve our overall health and support a reasonable body weight? Well, all of these are actually going to be covered in this PowerPoint. Sorry about the coughing, morning. And yes, I've already taken a walk. That's why this. There are problems associated with our health, for too little or too much body fat. When you have too little or too much, they both cause issues. And so just because somebody is skinny doesn't mean they're healthier. Just because somebody's fat doesn't necessarily mean they're healthier. Is there such a thing of love your body? Yes. However, there really are legitimate health issues with being too thin or too fat. All right, we've got our different health risks. I added some of this, so if you compare this PowerPoint to the one that's posted as book PowerPoints, you're going to see that this right here was added because I thought you might like to know more about what this actually is. If you're overweight, it tends to have a whole lot of issues. So you've got that one where people who are overweight tend to have more inflammation issues. I'm one of those. Your metabolism starts to get mucked up, your appetite completely different. Sometimes it's because you've stretched out your stomach, and so your stomach literally is larger. And they talk about this on my 600-pound life, which we know I talk about all the time. But it also actually can change the pathways in your brain and affect the hormones that are kicked out, which we're going to get to. I just realized totally that's a future part of the PowerPoint. But it's a hormone that tells you whether or not you're hungry or whether or not you're satisfied and you should stop. All of that can get adjusted or out of whack when you're too large. The cardiovascular function, huge. So the cardiovascular disease affects so much. And that is definitely something that's associated a lot with obesity. Chronic diseases. There is this term that it's comorbidity. It means a couple of things that go together a lot. And it's so funny. The first one I was about to say was going to be autism and ADHD. They actually tend to go together a lot. It doesn't mean one causes the other. It just seems to be that a lot of times they come together. Same thing for a lot of the chronic diseases and obesity. It didn't say it here, but one of the other ones is it's a higher risk of cancer. Mainly because as your body's trying to speed up replication, the more replications it does to replace various cells, the more chances there are statistically to go wrong. So if somebody is super, super tall, they are a higher risk of cancer than someone who's shorter. Someone who is very large has a higher risk of cancer than someone who is smaller. It doesn't mean they're guaranteed to have it. It's just a numbers game, basically. Underweight, you have wasting disease. That's like literally your muscles are wasting away. And so instead of just looking at a number on the scale, you're supposed to be looking at the overall body composition. The number on the scale is not indicative of health. It can give you a ballpark idea, but your body composition tells you more than anything else. So notice there is no I can't think of the phrase. We have underweight and obese and severely obese. We do not have normal or overweight listed on this chart. That's what I'm trying to say. But dude, we have a lot of people in the US that are obese. I am just outside of the obese category. I have finally gotten to the overweight category. Yay! I was so happy when I did it. And I was like, I'm no longer obese. But there you go. The deal here is the whole body fat distribution, where it is, tends to push towards what is healthier or less healthy or dangerous. I've talked previously in class about the visceral fat and the subcutaneous fat. The visceral fat is more firm and it's like on your organs, your viscera. And in Bio 124, I'm pretty sure is where we cover the viscera. And I just say it's your guts. It's what's inside here. So if anyone watches horror movies and they say, oh my gosh, he's been eviscerated, that just means cut open in the guts, like everywhere. So this means you have fat that has built like on top of your liver and different areas. And so this is a big part of people who end up with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Very dangerous. This leads to central obesity. So most of the fat is in your center area. It messes with your metabolism a lot more. The subcutaneous fat, that's the jiggly fat. So if you bounce and it goes, that's the subcutaneous fat. Too much of that, obviously, also not good, but it's not as dangerous as the visceral fat. And it tends to be easier to get rid of through diet and exercise. Fat distribution, apple versus pear. I always think that's kind of a funny way to put it, but apple, pear. And so apple, you tend to have the widest part around the middle. So that's the gut area, the whole trunk. If that part's your largest area, that is putting more fat closer to your heart, which makes it a little more dangerous. They used to do this thing called the waist to hip ratio. And when I abbreviated it in a class a while ago, it was hilarious because I didn't think about it, but I actually had this WTH on the top. I was thinking waist to hip. Clearly the whole class thought something else. Hilarity ensued, and then we moved on. But your hips are supposed to be larger than your waist. So pear. Do you want your hips to be like, no, we don't want an excess of fat there, but you're supposed to have more fat around your hips than your waist for women. And I say for women because, women are supposed to be shaped like this. We have a reason to have more fat here, and we have a reason to have more fat here. That's how our bodies are designed. Men tend to be more of a wedge. But the ratio between the width between your hips and your waist does help point to a better or worse cardiovascular stuff, which is why it says factors affecting distribution. Okay, evaluating risks from obesity. The waist circumference, there's the big one right there. Because the more weight you have around your waist, again, that's more towards your heart. That's also where your visceral fat would load up. Also, this tends to be where the insulin resistance begins to show. So people who tend to have more insulin resistance have the bigger belly. So if you are gaining weight, and I know I keep saying the word so, I'm sorry. I hear it in my head, but then I only hear it after it comes out of my mouth. I'm going to try to have that little train track running through my head that says, try not to do that, but I might fail. There you go. Anyway, if you find yourself gaining weight, like the scale says you're gaining weight, and all of your pants are fitting tighter around the waist, but you don't really notice as much in your legs, your arms, your face, that's a warning sign. That literally could be insulin resistance, especially if it's like coming out the front, not all around, but more like this. Think of almost like a pregnant belly. We know, we have seen people, and some of us might have had it ourselves, that we gained weight and it looked almost like we were pregnant because it's all right there. That tends to be indicative of insulin resistance, which again, huge warning sign, because that is leading you towards diabetes. BMI is not perfect. It is just a guideline. And I think we're going to cover this in a moment too. You know me, it'll pop something into my head. I talk. If we get to the slide where it covers it, then we just kind of cruise on by. BMI is doing this calculation that is taking your height and your weight and factoring it up to see where you're supposed to be. It does not take into account the denseness of like your muscle mass and stuff like that. And so BMI is not a perfect indicator. However, it is a very good guideline to get you started, because the average person, if they're remotely in a healthy stage, are not going to be marked up as underweight on the BMI or obese and morbidly obese on a BMI. The example used in my class when I took it was Shaquille O'Neal, because he's so tall and so large that he was listed as obese. But then that's when you look at his entire body composition and realize, no, he is just a good, solid guy. And so that's when you then go, oh, yeah, that's not really. That's the body composition part. But anyone who sits there and tries to say, oh, well, the BMI is not a good indicator, so I don't know why it says I'm obese. Take a good solid look at your composition and see if maybe you're just trying to not listen. I'm not trying to be mean, but a lot of people will take this piece of information and then wear it like a shield to not pay attention to something. So while BMI is not perfect and it does have issues, it is a very good indicator that there may be an issue. All right, waist circumference, I already said that. You are supposed to have, your waist needs to be below a certain size to be healthy. I am not, I don't think, I haven't measured it in a while, but I do not believe my waist is 35 inches yet. I think it's still a little bit bigger than that. So that puts me at a higher risk for a lot of these things. And you should be getting tested for all of this. Like, do an annual physical and get tested. All of these things you can actually help reduce your risk of just by taking care of yourself, having a healthier diet, moving a little bit, that kind of stuff. Of these listed, you get warning signs ahead of time, like pre-diabetes. That's a warning sign that if you don't change, you're going to be diabetic. Once you get to the diabetic side, you're stuck. You don't get to fix that. So if you're getting your annual checkup and they tell you that your A1C is high and you're listed as pre-diabetic, take it seriously. Start to make the changes, because you can reverse that. And you can reverse that. You can bring the hypertension down. You can bring the blood lipid profile down. You can bring that glucose tolerance down. And by bringing all of those down, you can avoid type 2 diabetes, and you can most often avoid the cardiovascular disease just by paying attention to the red flags and adjusting. So, discussion 1, can a person with obesity be healthy? And are all people at a healthy body weight healthy? I would love to be able to have had this conversation in person. So here you go. Can a person with obesity be healthy? Possibly. The reason it says possibly is because it really is this. Can somebody be listed as obese and not have diabetes, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, inflammation, and those things? Yes, somebody really can if it's one of those things where the fat has kind of distributed evenly all over the place and they still have a decent healthy diet and they exercise, they're keeping themselves going, so everything is running in a normal proper way. That is possible. However, our skeleton is designed for a certain weight limit, and that's something that a lot of people tend to skirt right over. When you have excess weight, you are putting more pressure on your joints. And at first, it might not be that big a deal, but then the older you get, the more worn down they are. That's still technically healthy, but it's pain. And eventually, it will have to be addressed. If you look at the people who complain about every day their joints are popping, it's sore, they wake up and they're like, oh, take a look at their weight. Is it a healthy weight? Is it slightly overweight? Is it a good deal overweight? Take a look at that. So a person can technically be listed in the obese category. And I mean actual obese, not morbidly obese. There is a huge difference. If I gained maybe 10 pounds, I would be in the obese category, just so you know. It might not even be 10 pounds. I might be closer to it than that. It might be more like 5, but it's like, I'm like borderline. I'm just into the overweight category. I am almost in the obese category. This is the stuff you have to pay attention to. Now, are all people at a healthy body weight healthy? No. A lot of them are, sure, but a lot of them are not. Some are, well, that's not a healthy body weight if they're underweight. There are a lot of people who have normal weight, and so on the BMI chart, they're listed as in the proper weight category, but they might have visceral fat. They might have the fatty liver disease. Their diet might be atrocious. Their veins and arteries might be all clogged up like, a traffic jam on 285 due to the amount of fat that's been plopped throughout there. So just looking at a weight cannot tell you if a person is healthy or unhealthy. And for some reason in the US, we are obsessed over just the weight instead of the health, which is why we have all of those fly by night, lose all this weight quickly. And it's scary because a lot of times when you're trying to lose it fast and you're only focusing on the weight aspect, you are doing serious damage to your inside. And most people would rather not damage their inside. That's what I would like to think. So there you go. Energy balance. Totally the stuff about what we were talking about in class on Wednesday. And I will be setting all that stuff up for you. Your energy in is supposed to match your energy out. That seems simple enough. The change in energy stores energy in minus the energy out. So if you are taking in, say, 2,000 calories and you are burning 2,100 calories, you are burning more energy than you put in. And so that should help you lose a little bit of weight. If you are taking in 2,000 calories and you are burning 4,000 calories, that is too big of a deficit. And that's going to shock your body, and your body's going to go into starvation mode and start storing every single thing as fat, because fat has the highest amount of energy and your body needs the energy. If you are taking in, we're going to say 2,000 calories, and you're burning 2,400 calories, that's not the healthiest, but that's not horrible. A huge issue here is a lot of people have no clue how much energy they burn, and a lot of people have no clue how much energy they're taking in. That's why you're supposed to be doing that nutrition diary, and why I'm going to set up this assignment to track what you consume. Because a lot of people think they're eating better, but then once you start looking at everything, you go, oh my gosh. So there you go. Now, the energy in, it's what you're eating, what you're drinking, and this and that. So if you drink a Coke, That's a lot of empty calories. Empty calories means there's a lot of calories there. There's zero nutrition. If you drink a latte of some sort, that's going to be a whole lot of calories and almost no nutrition. I say almost no nutrition because the milk product that is in there contains a little something, but it's mostly not good for you. Energy out, it's the amount of energy you burn. Some of it is just your body running itself. It's the amount of energy needed just to keep your meat sac alive. Then you have the energy for all your movements. So if you don't move much, you're not going to actually burn as many calories. If you move as much as me, you're going to burn a lot of calories. And quite frankly, there is no way, I don't think there's any way to track exactly how much I burn, because a lot of mine has nothing to do with walking. A lot of it does, as you've seen. But even when I'm sitting still, I'm all twitchy. Clearly, I will burn a lot of calories. I might never know unless I got like the whole, there's this system that they can rig up that tracks everything. I'm kind of curious to do that one day, but it won't be for a while. Anyway, your lifestyle, what you do, how you do it, everything, all of this indicates your energy out, which is part of those calculations that we will do once I am back from the surgery stuff. Energy output. This is what we're going to be covering with it. It's your basal metabolism, the voluntary activity, so the stuff you're doing, the physical activity, thermic effect of food. Some food uses more energy to break down than other. So like if you have ever heard of negative calorie foods, that's food like celery that uses more energy to digest it than it contains. But then you have others that will take longer to burn up, and that's things like raw nuts. Raw nuts help level out your sugar levels because it just takes a while, you know? I have to drink, sorry. Modifying your energy output has to do with your lean body mass. So this has to do with measurements and whatnot. And then your estimated energy requirements. This is figuring out how much food you probably need in order to take care of all the stuff you do. Factors that affect the BMR. BMR is the basal metabolic rate. And so these are all things having to do with you personally. This is why if somebody says you need X number of calories and they have never talked to you, measured you, asked any questions, it's a load of crap. You have to know these factors in order to understand your BMR. The thing I'm going to have you do does not go into this degree. It's going to pretty much only cover the age, height, the growth, the body composition. Yeah, that's all that's going to be included in the BMR for the stuff we're doing. But the other stuff really does affect it. Anyone who's ever been really sick and you had a fever, and then you weren't eating because of how sick you were, and you watched that your weight just plummeted. This is why I mentioned in class that whole starve a cold, feed a fever, or whatever it is a load of crap. You're supposed to feed it all. If you're sick, you need to eat because it's jacking up your basal metabolic rate because your body is fighting. You wouldn't send a boxer into the ring on an empty stomach. It doesn't work that way. They need energy. Stress hormones also raise it. So people who are like massively stressed, that can plummet, like their weight can plummet. The temperature, the fasting and starvation, notice that lowers your BMR. So the people who are constantly asking, what about the intermittent fasting? It's actually bringing your metabolic rate lower. So your body is not burning it as fast. This is why when each person asks me, what about intermittent fasting? I go, if you're fasting for religious and cultural reasons, that's a totally different thing. You're not doing this in order to control your weight. But people who are trying to throw in fasting to help with weight loss, it's not really helping the way the things are telling you. Because by doing this, it's bringing your basal metabolic rate down because your body thinks it's starving and it's trying to save energy. So it's holding on to more fat. So it might help a couple of times, but then when the body starts to learn, hey, this is what keeps happening. It's storing fat for those times. So there you go. Malnutrition, any of those diets, which is making you completely remove something so you're not getting everything your body needs, that totally eventually leads to malnutrition, which then also lowers your basal metabolic rate. If your basal metabolic rate is lower, that literally means your metabolism is slowing down. Kind of the opposite if you're trying to lose weight. And then the thyroid stuff. If you go and get a physical, you get blood work, you're having trouble with your weight, whether it's you can't gain weight or you can't lose weight, one of the number one things a doctor will do is check your thyroid to make sure that this is working properly. All right, body weight versus body composition. For your BMI, you are listed as underweight if you are 18.5 or lower. You are listed as overweight if you are 2.5 to 29.9. And then obese is over 30 or 30 or more. They have had to add a couple of more categories to obese because we have left obese way back there. And now when you hear obese, most people think my 600-pound life. But my 600-pound life is the last stage of the obesity scale. And I think it is actually past the morbidly obese. It's like there's a few categories for obese. If you want to see where yours is, you can easily Google. If you Google and say BMI calculator, there are sites where you can just answer questions and it will calculate your BMI for you. It's going to ask for your height and your weight, and then it will do everything for you and let you know. So there you go. I've already talked about these drawbacks, that there's no way on the BMI scale to know how much of the weight is fat, how much of it is muscle. It's not going to look at where the location is, but it gives you a ballpark, because if your BMI is like 40, I promise you have a problem. It's not healthy. You need to start working on stuff, no matter who you are, because that is so far out off the charts. Same thing if your BMI comes back at like 15, very much not good. So, yeah, body composition. This is how it's supposed to be. So for men, both of you in this class, 42% muscle, 25% organs, 18% fat, 15% bone. Notice women, we are supposed to have more fat. So our bone is a tiny bit less and our muscle is less, but our fat is more. So we should be 26% fat. There's a reason we're supposed to have some fat. It's part of what makes us look like girls. So don't get too upset about all the fat. We need some fat. There are different ways to measure your body composition and figure it out. The skin fold test is one way. I actually have one of these little meters at home. And if anyone wants to try to use it, feel free. Just let me know. I'll bring it in 3 weeks. It's frustrating because you have to pinch exactly the right amount. And so it's annoying. I'm not a fan. Then you have the waist circumference. That's an easy one to do. The hardest part for that is discovering exactly where the waist is. It's so funny. The cool one, which I have not had done, but it's really cool if you look up pictures, and again, you can Google it, is the DEXA. It does this X-ray, so it shows you, and then it shows the layer of fat. And so you actually see how much fat is on your body. So you can actually tell exactly where, and yes, I know I use so a whole bunch right there. You can actually see where the fat pockets are. You can see if you have visceral fat, because like the picture here, that lady, she looks like a great weight. That doesn't mean she doesn't have visceral fat. And so this system will check and then give you the warnings. Appetite regulation. Talked a little bit about this. So we've got our hunger, our appetite, satiation, and satiety. These are 4 different things. Hunger. This is the actual physiological thing. Your stomach and your hypothalamus are in this together. Hypothalamus, again, in the brain. Ghrelin, that is a hormone that's kicked out that tells your body, hey, we're hungry. This is that stomach growling and all of that stuff. This is your body saying, hello, we need sustenance. We are running low on energy. Give us energy. It's not there to be annoying. It's your body literally doing its job, trying to make you do your job, which is feed your meat sack. This is why when I've gone on and on and on about eating breakfast, and then some of you have started eating breakfast, we were talking that now you wake up hungry, because literally breakfast is break fast. You have not eaten all night. Your body has been still working all night long. It's been burning up its energy. You need to put more energy in. That's what this is. Appetite is the psychological side. So it goes with the hunger, but there's more to it, because sometimes you just want something. So you might have an appetite for something, but you're not really hungry. This is those stress eating things, or when they give you the big plate and you're thoroughly enjoying the food, it is so good, but your body is no longer telling you you're hungry, but you still have an appetite for it. And so you eat it. This is the part that leads towards overeating. Satiation. This is the part of your body that's, again, physiologically, your body is saying, okay, this is good. We're good. This is exactly what we're needing. And satiety is the after. This is the one that's letting you know, yep, oh, we're good. I don't need anything for a while. And that's controlled with something called leptin. This is, again, another hormone that's thrown out there. People who are obese, morbidly obese, you've kind of broken this, and sometimes the leptin isn't coming out. The leptin is the part telling you you don't need to eat. Yeah. So hunger, appetite, satiety. Hunger and appetite makes you realize you're hungry. So you go find food and you eat it, and then you keep eating. And then your body says, hey, we're full, we're good. And in class, if you remember, I tell you, you do this one. That is literally your body saying, oh, we're good now. You can stop. We need to learn to listen to that stop. And then after that, your body is breaking it down. It's absorbing the nutrients. It's doing its entire thing. And as everything slowly comes out of the stomach and passes through, then your body starts to go, okay, how are we doing? How's our blood sugar level? How's our energy? How's this? How's that? And then once it goes, I think we're completely empty again. Then it's like, hello. And we start the cycle again. All righty. Knowledge check. You are supposed to figure out which ones are which. But since I can't draw lines and talk to you, here's the answers. So your appetite is the psychological desire to eat. Your hunger is the physiological desire. So again, hunger is your body literally telling you eat. Your appetite is your brain, your mind, your thoughts, your emotions. Satiety is the perception of fullness that lingers after the meal. This is your body saying, we're good, don't need anything for a while. And satiation, I always mess that word up. This is what's building while you're eating. Once D is finished, that's when you have that sigh. So don't forget about that. Theories of obesity. There are different reasons why people believe that there's obesity. In Bio 124, we talked about the brown adipose tissue, for those of you who have taken Bio 124. I have talked a lot about microbiota. And then I have also talked about genes and the epigenome. And so we've talked about most of these things. The brown adipose tissue is more of the lean fat, and it burns more energy. This is known as the baby fat, because if you ever notice an actual baby, I'm talking just a healthy baby, not the ones that look like the Michelin Man with rolls everywhere, but just a good healthy baby. They eat, they bulk up a little bit, and then they get bigger. And then they eat, they bulk up a little bit, then they get bigger. That brown adipose tissue is processing the food at a much faster rate. And they have found a lot of people who are lean have more brown adipose tissue. And that's why their metabolism runs a tiny bit higher. It helps break it down faster. They run a little warmer. When you're gaining weight, you are not gaining brown adipose tissue. You are gaining the white fat, the jiggly fat, the stuff that's harder to get rid of, the stuff that's not great for you. Slows everything down. The microbiota, I've talked about this a few times. It's part of what makes changing your eating habits difficult, because you've got all these little bugaboos living in your gut and they want what they want. And so how you have fed them throughout your life dictates which ones live in there. And so when you start starving them of what they want it. They start screaming and pitching a fit, which is where you start craving the candy. You crave the butter. You crave the whatever. I was about to say broccoli, but I'm probably the only person who starts craving broccoli. But that's literally the bacteria that's living in your gut demanding to be fed. And that is why, if you're trying to cut something out to be healthier, like added sugars, it gets worse before it gets better, because sugar actually also triggers the areas in the brain just like drugs. And so it is a physical addiction to sugar that you have to break. And so it gets bad. You want it so badly, you get cranky, you get a headache, you're like, ah, until you don't. So if you fight against it until you get to the other end, your cravings for it get less and less and less, because that bacteria has died off. And that's part of how the microbiota affects the obesity range, is depending on which ones you're feeding, they proliferate and demand more. You might have a gene, an obesity gene. That's totally possible, but that doesn't mean you have to be obese. That's where the epigenome comes into play, because it might run in the genes, but you changing your diet and changing stuff, you can actually flip that switch back the other direction, which is pretty cool. Then we have our outside the body theories. Environmental cues to overeating. Good Lord, the US is full of this. There is way more availability, both location and price-wise, for bad food. Most of our restaurants will actually publicize that they have larger portions. We don't need larger portions. If someone is served a plate this big, chances are they're going to eat it all. You don't need that. If you go out to eat and you go to the places with this and you're trying to be healthier, smartest thing you can do, as soon as they're serving you the plate, ask for a to-go container. Put half of it in the to-go container and then set it aside. Because if you take it off your plate right away, psychologically, it helps you, because now you don't feel the need to eat all of that. And then, hey, you get 2 meals for the price of one. You can even take 2/3 of it away and then separate that into 2 containers and get 3 meals, because some places it's really way too big. Other considerations, dude, I'm going to throw this towards people, because as I've attempted to get healthier, my friends like pressure me. It's ridiculous. I will tell them that I limit my added sugars and my saturated fats. And like, oh, it's okay. A splurge every now and again's fine. And instead of helping me do what is best for my body, they keep pushing me to do worse and tell me it's just a reward. It's just a splurge. It's just this. It's just that. And I have finally realized I really think they do it to make themselves feel better about their decisions. If you have a friend who's trying to be healthy, support them in that. Don't say, but it's just this. How about you help them stick to them? Like if somebody is an alcoholic and says, I have realized I can't control myself around alcohol, are you going to go, it's just a beer? No. So our health choices are right there with it. I want to be healthy. I want to live a long time. So I chose to make healthy options. I can deal with the availability. I've learned how to deal with that. I've dealt with the larger portions. I gave you some ideas for that. Dude, it's my friends and family who push so hard that make it the hardest, and then it makes me not want to go out with them. It's why I do meals with that one friend who I'm like, oh, because instead of trying to make me feel bad for my choices, he just eats the crap I don't eat. So, Food supply, dopamine. Yeah, that's what I was just talking about, how sugar also affects the same area of your brain as drugs, other addictions. It literally makes you feel better. And we set our children up for this. Oh, you fell. Is it okay? Here, have a cookie. Oh, great job. Congratulations. Let's go get an ice cream. We teach our children to reward and sympathize with high sugar items. So we set the stage for this sugar addiction when they're tiny. That's not healthy. We have now taken our children and set them up for failure for their entire life by doing this and excused it to ourselves, saying, oh, but it's just this, it's just that. Make healthier choices. And then that takes away the power of the dopamine. It takes that addiction away. There is nothing wrong with celebrating with an orange, you know? It's also sweet, but it's healthier. Physical inactivity. Holy crap, this is a big one. Most people, they sit like a lot. Screen time. The average person is constantly staring at a phone or a computer or a TV. And that is all they do. They don't move while they're doing it. I am aware that I'm one of the few people that when I'm playing video games, I'm pacing. Of course I do, right? Most people will just sit there. And then most jobs have you sitting behind a desk. And the number of people who will say they just don't have time to exercise. This is adding to the obesity problem. So if you have a desk job and you're sitting there, you really should get up every hour and just, walk a couple of laps, something to get your blood moving. And then our neighborhoods, not all of our neighborhoods are designed for safe walking. That's just a fact. Some people can, some people can't. It depends on where you are. And a food desert. Food desert means that it's an area where there's no healthy options. This could be a very rural area. So everybody lives so far apart that you literally have to drive 20, 30 miles to get to somewhere to purchase food. Or it can be inside the city where there is no actual grocery store and you have to use the corner market or the convenience store. And so everything's canned or instant and just not good. There are huge areas throughout the entire United States where it is very difficult to get fresh produce. This is your in-class assignment. So there are a variety of ways to increase daily physical activity other than through planned exercise. Think of 5 creative ways people can increase their daily physical activity. I gave you one a moment ago, and I've mentioned one in class very recently. So for your in-class assignment, I want you to give me 5 creative ways people can increase their daily physical activity. This does not mean go to the gym. This does not mean lift weights. This does not mean official planned exercise. Everybody knows that. I want 5 things people and you yourself can do to just increase your daily physical activity. Again, not planned exercise. So there you go. How the body loses and gains weight. Well, all has to do with the energy that you take in. So fasting is here. Need for glucose by the nervous system, glycogen stores meet the need initially. But you have to be careful. Ketosis. This is the whole basis for that stupid keto diet, where it says that it's going to break down the fat fragments and then some amino acids will give the ketone bodies. There's some danger with this whole ketosis thing, and I've talked about that in class. Diabetic ketosis. There are people, when they are the least healthy, are living in ketosis and their body is literally eating itself. And it's extremely dangerous. If you are smelling acetone, like your breath smells like nail polish remover, or your body is letting off this acetone scent, that tends to be the ketones coming out. That's kind of a warning sign that you might be going too far, because it doesn't only pick the fat in your body to burn, it starts breaking down other things too. And then the helpful versus the harmful versus helpful fasting is where we're going to talk about the intermittent fasting. I've already talked about some of it. I'm trying to see if there's any more in here because I quite frankly don't remember the next couple of slides. And I keep looking going, is it covered? But it's so small, I can't tell what's on there. So if the body has too much energy taken in, the proteins broken down to the amino acids, we talked about this previously, the excess is converted to either sugar or fat. So sometimes it will break it down into sugar, which will then raise your sugar level. Other times it's going to just put it in fat and store it for later because, again, fat is the #1 energy source. The fat broken down to glycerol and fatty acids gets stored as excess body fat. Carbohydrates broken down to sugars. And then the extra of that goes to the glycogen or fat. And alcohol is used for fuel or converted to fat. So if you've ever heard or seen the people who drink a lot of alcohol and they keep gaining weight around their stomach, that's why. So if you are taking in too much of anything, it's going to store as fat because the body's like, hey, I'm going to save this energy for later. And fat has the highest energy. Achieving and maintaining a healthy body weight. Notice I highlighted behavior modification. Seriously, all of this falls under behavior modification. You have to adjust your brain. The number of times people say, but I don't like water. That's you having decided this. Change it. Start making an effort. You can totally change your mind about it. If every time you go, oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate this. It's going to be harder for you to drink water. If you go, hey, this is the best thing for my body. I just helped my body. You're more likely to drink. Same thing for the food. If you sit there and go, I don't like vegetables. Think of a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. That's literally what you're doing. Whenever you say, but I like this and I don't like that. Is it because you're used to this and you have decided this? Have you given this a fair chance? Don't try to change everything all at once either, because that's really hard. Manageable, where it says set achievable goals, manageable goals. A little at a time. Once you succeed at this, you add another step and then another step, and you will actually succeed. But you have to change your own behavior the whole way. Same thing for the physical activity. It's all teaching yourself to do something different. So every aspect, every time someone says, but how can I lose weight? Nothing works. Behavior modification. You have to check yourself. Stop acting like a little toddler throwing a temper tantrum because you're not getting something that you want right when you want it. Instead, say, this is what I need to do to get what I want. Work for it. Adjust. Fix your own personal behavior. That last part, keep records of food intake and exercise. That's why we're going to do this. That's why it's going to be included in your food diary that I hope people really are doing, because I'm about to up your game on what you have to track for your food diary, just so you know. All right, best strategies for weight loss. Pay attention. Figure out how many calories you actually need to take in. Don't go crazy with it. Don't go too low. Don't go too high. Pay attention to the portion size. Of course, look at the labels. Make sure that you have it all spaced for when you eat. Don't eat all in one shot. That's not how our body burns. If you take in too much in one shot and you're not taking in enough at the rest, then as soon as you take it in here, it's going to store some for fat for later. Best thing you can do, eat throughout the whole flipping day, but don't eat this much. So say that this is how much you eat for an entire day. Eat this much. And then this much, this much, this much, this much. The best thing for you, honestly, is something like 5 times a day, spaced throughout the day, right when you wake up, all the way up until a couple of hours before you go to bed. If you eat a little bit every few hours, and I mean a little bit, don't go past where that, you're going to have much better luck, because your body is burning it like that. And of course, regular physical activity. Again, this is not talking about going to the gym. We're not talking workouts. We're talking just be active. Weight gain, you need food with high energy density. You might need to increase your portion size, and you need to make sure how often you're eating. A lot of people who are trying to gain weight, they will complain they can't gain weight, but then when they take a look, they're only eating twice a day. Again, not good enough. You need to eat more. And then your physical activity to gain muscle may help. All right, discussion question number 2, and we're getting close to being done, so don't worry. Sorry, had to burp, probably from my over-the-top things about drinking the water. Anyway, what physical and mental changes can one expect to see in their body when they exercise? What is the effect of exercise on appetite? Well, here you go. Mental and physical changes caused by exercise. It helps everything. The more you exercise, the more bone density you have. You tend to retain your bones a lot longer. You tend to sleep better. You tend to deal with stress better. All of this helps exercise, or with exercise. But caveat, if you exercise too close to time to go to bed, sometimes that can make it harder to go to sleep. So you're supposed to make sure you're finished exercising within, like, I think it's 2 hours of bedtime, somewhere around there. Exercise helps let things off. For your appetite, most people, after you've done some exercise, and remember, I'm not talking going to the gym, I'm talking just generic, like going for a nice walk. You tend to not be super hungry right afterwards because your body is flushed to the stuff. It makes you feel good. It might give you some time in between feeling hungry. Medical treatment of obesity. Has anyone seen Invader Zim? And I know that feels so out of the blue, but the way I just said medical in my head, I heard that medical adhesive strip. Anyway, so obesity medications, they do actually have medicine to try to help with obesity now. You have the dietary supplements and gimmicks. Don't waste your time on those. They're a waste of money, every one of those things. If you see an infomercial for it, chances are it's not going to help you. Then there's obesity surgery. Hello, 600-pound life. This is where they go in there and they like put a band or they remove part of the stomach. This is done in extreme cases because the person needs more help. But if you haven't figured out how to control your eating beforehand, that's not going to help. So you really have to be careful on the whole obesity surgery part. Most of it is, again, here. It's not easy. It's very simple, but it's not easy. And that's where you have to help hold yourself accountable. Then we have our eating disorders. I've talked about these in Bio 124. I'll talk about them again in here. I've had most of the different eating disorders. The only one I haven't done is binge eating, quite frankly. As a teen, I did I just didn't eat. I did it where I didn't eat for long periods of time. And then when I did eat, I felt guilty. And so then I would throw up. I used to, at the age of 17, I had a toothbrush that I carried with me everywhere because I didn't want to ruin my teeth from throwing up. The one I still deal with is I didn't know it was a thing until my counselor, when I was going to college in my 30s, she held an intervention for me with herself, a nurse, and a nutritionist to talk to me about this. I was not aware that there was also something called restrictive eating, where I would put very specific rules in place on what I was allowed to eat. That's another kind of eating disorder. Then they have the disordered eating, where it's a complete different one, where it's, well, I hate to throw this out there. There are people who think they're doing the healthiest thing, but they have such rules that they are becoming malnourished. But it is a very particular type of eating disorder that they have to have all this in place. And then you have a lot of athletes that have eating disorders. And since they're not making themselves throw up, since they're not starving themselves, since they're still an athlete, people will say, oh, well, this is for peak performance. You have to have this much protein and this much carbs. That's not healthy. And there's a whole movement of things that if you will do the research in the eating disorders, you'll see it really literally is a type of eating disorder. It's all here and it's damaging. So strategies for combating eating disorders. If you're trying to help somebody with it, or if you yourself have an issue, this is the stuff to go over. One of the absolute biggest things is don't look on the weight. Don't go by your appearance. Go with how the feeling is, how healthy you are, the energy level, that kind of stuff. Because too many people are obsessed with size, and there's more to it than that. And if all you're looking at is the number, whether the number is on the scale or the number is on your clothing, that's not a healthy way. We need this part to be healthy. And so the number one thing is to focus on proper nutrition so you are getting what your body needs. Now, here's the part that I have highlighted the main things. So clearly we're near the end. So this is briefly describe the inside the body parts about explaining obesity. I already covered this in the PowerPoint, so I'm not doing it again. But I'm going to point out, here's the main stuff that I already talked about. This is some more. So this where it says bacteria may generate signals, this is where I'm talking about what you are cultivating in your own body that then causes a chain reaction for the rest. How would you respond to an advertisement for weight loss drug claiming that eating certain foods can elevate the BMR? And then do all this stuff. Remember, your BMR is controlled by very specific things. Can you change it? Yes, by very specific things, but a lot of things that you're being told is going to help you actually is going the opposite direction. So please, please, please be careful. Identify and discuss external cues that lead to overeating behavior and weight gain. Totally covered all this. I highlighted in yellow the main part that I have already gone on and on about, which is the comfort and things being too big. So what is the female athlete triad, and why are athletes and dancers at higher risk for eating disorders? Well, the triad is right here. It's not showing up. Energy insufficiency, low bone density, and menstrual dysfunction. I can't believe I had the hardest time saying that. What happens here is those three things are what they end up having problems with because they are so obsessed about being a certain size, being a certain weight, and they will do everything to control that. Clearly not something for health, not something to help somebody grow to be a healthy old person. And that is it. So we have now finished chapter 9. There we go. And yeah, hopefully I can get the educational thing done about the video for the energy budget stuff to get you started on collecting that. I keep glancing because my mom's texted me because I'm supposed to pick her up after her doctor's office, and so, or her visit, take her to lunch, and I'm betting she's done, but I told her I was going to be doing this. So anyway, that's it, and I hope that this was helpful. So peace.